PlayStation's Jim Ryan had an interview with GamesIndustry.biz. It was a fireside chat where they discussed the state of the industry, the state of PlayStation, and there's some great takeaways from this interview that I thought was really nice. It was a really nice interview between Jim Ryan and the gentleman from GamesIndustry.biz. Let's go over some of the key takeaways. Before I get into it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when these videos go live. So I'm going to take you through point by point, basically what happened in the GamesIndustry.biz video and talk about the key points that they hit on and sort of my personal reaction to them. So they opened up talking about Play at Home. Now, Play at Home, if you don't know, was an initiative that Sony started during the start of COVID, where basically they said, hey, we're going to give away some free games to our members to play during this time. I know one of the games on that list was Horizon, the original Horizon, a great free giveaway, and they've continued to support the games industry and gamers by offering free games. They said, Jim Ryan said specifically that 60 million games were downloaded because of the Play at Home initiative. And that's rather incredible to know that so many games were given away. This is one thing that PlayStation, I think, does a lot better than Xbox. They're really public with how many people download their games. They know how to share interesting numbers that sort of perk your ears up. For example, like Xbox could say, since the launch of Games with Gold, we've launched a billion games or something like that, and they just never release numbers. It sort of strains me. But to hear that this small initiative that they did brought, free games to 60 million people is definitely a win for the Sony brand. He also talked about launching the PlayStation 5 during COVID and how it was basically done from a dining room table in London. This is something that everybody in the games industry has been struggling with. Since COVID hit, basically with the social distancing measures, everybody has had to adjust to new strategies. He did go on to reiterate that the 10 million units selling that quickly is something he's tremendously proud of. And honestly, it is an incredible feat, given all of the constraints, all of the things that are working against these companies to be able to launch and sell that many consoles. What else did they talk about during this? They asked, what is PlayStation about, or something similar to that. And they said the most important thing to them is the games, and they've talked about how they have a AAA initiative to make amazing game experiences on their console. The second is sense of community. Jim Ryan thinks that this grows as each year passes, and I would actually agree with that. The PlayStation community is a very large community, and I've been very happy to be introduced to people who are good from the community. And unfortunately, as you see rapid growth like this, sometimes you get a few bad apples who aren't as great for your brand. I think there's like Greg Miller pops in my mind as just a great ambassador for the PlayStation brand. He has been unabashedly a PlayStation fan. Jonathan Dornbush, a lot of my coworkers, and I think they're just great. And I hope we see more positivity and more people like that in the industry talking about their love for the PlayStation brand, because those are the kind of people that I want to sit down and talk to about PlayStation and have conversations with. And I think they really do a good job of evoking that emotion in people when they do their podcasts and such. So it's really awesome to see him recognize the great community that they do have. The third thing he mentioned was their brand, and he said PlayStation has always been cool. All right, I guess I don't go around thinking that a brand is cool per se. I don't I don't think Xbox is cool, but I guess whatever. It's just sort of a strange way for me to think of like Nintendo or Xbox or whatever. But I guess he sort of makes a point. Like if you think about Nintendo lunchboxes, when you're really young and you had the Mario lunchbox, I guess you were the cool kid, and PlayStation is sort of broken into that ideal of being a premier brand that people want to be associated with, that people look at positively. Now, later on in the interview, he actually said some really, really interesting stuff. He said the PlayStation 5's launch lineup is The best any console has ever had at launch. And I realize a lot of those games were cross-platform, but I think I'd actually agree. I do think that the launch lineup was quite strong because you had stuff to play on your PlayStation 5 that was the premier experience on your PlayStation 5. I think back even to the 360 era, you could talk about the launch window, but actual launch like month, it's usually pretty dry for these consoles. It takes a little bit of time sort of to get the ball rolling. I think the PlayStation 5 has had an incredibly strong launch lineup, especially when you compare it to something like Xbox. Xbox had a pretty rocky start, and they've focused on services, and now they're finally getting the ball rolling with games coming out 2021 and into 2022, and that's why I'm excited looking forward. He also said, I can't wait to see these games dropping one after another. Horizon, God of War, GT7. I think that is ultimately what defines us. And he's talking about these premier gaming experiences on the PlayStation platform and why he is excited about them. And I'm excited about it because we are going to have so many good games in 2022. It's just going to be great. Whether you're a PlayStation gamer, a PC gamer, or an Xbox gamer, I just think there's going to be a ton of great stuff. Of course, Jim Ryan is going to advocate for Sony and Sony alone, but if you look at the bigger picture, we just have a great 2022 ahead of us for all platforms. One thing he did say that I didn't necessarily agree with. He said Ratchet and Clank is a first-rate example of what the PlayStation 5 is capable of, and there's going to be many more to come. That part I agree with. Insomniac is a fantastic developer, but he said you can look at that and say, wow, you can never do that on any other console. Except there was just a big conversation about how you probably could do that on other consoles, especially with the Rift stuff from a developer that said you could have done that on very old hardware. It's sort of trickery more than anything. You're not actually instant loading in these areas. It's doing things a little bit differently than you might expect. Now, I'm not throwing shade at Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank and Insomniac are amazing developers, but Insomniac at one point was owned by Microsoft. And the idea that Insomniac, or at least partnered, I can't remember if they were owned or partnered, but I know Sunset Overdrive was on Xbox only, and now they are PlayStation partners. So the idea that all this stuff was only ever possible on PlayStation, I don't know about that, but I love Ratchet and Clank. I love Insomniac. I'll just agree to disagree on that one. Cause like, if you're saying like, technically it's just impossible to do on Xbox, I'm like, architecture wise, both consoles are so close. Xbox having the more power, I believe the Xbox's processor is more powerful. So the idea that Xbox couldn't handle a game like Ratchet and Clank, I think it's posturing more than anything on Jim Ryan's part. And that's sort of his job to do, right? Now, the quote that got everybody talking, he said, most people of every background more people of every background are gaming than ever before. I see no reason gaming shouldn't be as ubiquitous as music, movies, or TV shows. I like to see a world where the games that we make can be enjoyed by many tens of millions of people, perhaps hundreds of millions of people. Because right now, success with the existing console model, a really great PlayStation hit, you're talking 10 or 20 million people able to play that game. And if you compare that, and we're comparing games stacking up against music, we're talking about games stacking up against movies. Music and movies can be enjoyed by almost limitless audiences. And I think that some of the art our studios are making is some of the finest entertainment that's been made anywhere in the world. And to kind of gate the audience for the wonderful art, the wonderful entertainment these studios are making, to get the audience for that 20 or 30 million frustrates me. And I'd love to see a world of hundreds of millions of people who can enjoy these games. Now, this is one of the most encouraging things I've ever heard Jim Ryan say. It's basically him tearing down this idea of having a walled garden of PlayStation and actually discussing opening up that option to more and more people. Now, a lot of people have made the correlation to cloud gaming and what Xbox has done. And if you look back, and I believe MBG tweeted this reminder, he basically said, quoted an article from VG, which said, Jim Ryan says Sony is devising a cloud strategy that will be unique and only on PlayStation. And this is an answer to what Xbox has been doing with xCloud. Now, the technology for PlayStation streaming has long been pandered basically by critics because of its latency. It has gotten better. But here's what they have planned for the future, and the future actually seems quite bright with this technology. In 2019, it announced a strategic partnership with Microsoft, which will see it using the Xbox firm's Azure data centers for cloud gaming and content streaming services. PlayStation boss Ryan said Sony was not yet ready to reveal its cloud strategy for PS5, but suggested it was devising a unique offering. We're still having conversations with Microsoft about exchanging ideas, he said. We're still talking to them about exchanging ideas, and there's some very interesting stuff. So when the time is right, we'll announce our cloud strategy. We could conceivably use the cloud for our technical infrastructure, but the cloud gaming experience we're offering will be unique and only on PlayStation. So this idea, you see so many people talking about just negatively about collaborations, how Xbox is bad for doing Game Pass, Xbox, like the cloud gaming stuff is bad, just people being negative on it. And then seeing Sony come out and say, hey, you know what? We're actually going to offer a similar service, which is what I love to see, because at the end of the day, consumers getting better services is what I always hope for. And I'm incredibly glad to see Jim Ryan come out and say, we are devising a strategy to do this. Now, the cloud quote that I'm reading from that article was from back in April of 2021. And I've talked about it multiple times. This is something that they're working on developing. But he goes a step further. He also says that they're tired of gating those experiences to just one platform. And that's why the plastic box wars are stupid, because gaming is evolving, whether you like it or not. And pretty soon, the plastic box that you decide to align with is going to be less and less relevant as more and more gamers are introduced into those ecosystems. And that's what PlayStation is likely planning to do when they announce their cloud services. That's what Xbox has already done with Game Pass and their cloud services. And the point I'm trying to make is the landscape of gaming, as you know it, is going to change as we move forward into the future. For the better, I believe. I don't think locking art experiences onto one piece of plastic, to quote Jim Ryan, to kind of gate the audience for the wonderful art, the wonderful entertainment these studios are making, to get that audience for that 20 or 30 million frustrates me. And I'd love to see a world hundreds of millions of people can enjoy these games. He wants to see a world where everybody can experience the amazing storytelling of those PlayStation games everywhere. So if you're still out there fighting your plastic box and touting it as some sort of next coming, things are going to change over the years. And I encourage you not to align necessarily with a console, because as it's going to evolve, like, do you really think that we're going to be just playing everything off of a plastic box for the rest of our lives? The industry will move forward from 1990 at some point, from the 2000s. We're in 2021. We have blinding fast internet in most of the world. Things are going to change, and it's incredibly exciting to see people like Jim Ryan recognize that, to see people like Phil Spencer recognize that, to see the industry mostly recognize that. So if you're not on board yet, well, I don't know what to tell you. Buckle up. All right. Well, that's all I have for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to catch you for the next one. If you like these videos, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. I'll see you for the next one, everybody. Thank you so much to the members who support this channel. You rock. I appreciate you. If you want to become a member, hit that join button and choose to support at whatever level you desire. I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you for the next one. Thank you, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.